Hello everyone. Today we will reaction to the Loki 2 episode 2 with the samurai recap of the Loki 2. Okay, now let's start.
Episode 2 starts out in 1977 in London on the Sacred Timeline. Hunter X5 went dark, and the last hit on his tempad was at that location. They think that maybe Sylvie has something to do with it, but as soon as they show up, Loki says, no, she's not here. It's not some apocalypse, some war zone, there's no chaos. Life is normal here. But Mobius wants to still check it out anyway. When they arrive, it's at a movie premiere. And they're surprised to see that the star of the movie is Hunter X5. He's decided to make a new life for himself. That's why his tempad went dark, and he's been very successful at it. But as Hunter X5 is schmoozing the room, walking around, his mood suddenly changes when he sees both Mobius and Loki. He's formed a life for himself that he doesn't want to leave, and he knows that these two want to drag him back to being a hunter for the TVA. He takes off running. Loki, Mobius go after him. But eventually, Loki, using his magic, are able to corner him and drag him back to the TVA. They arrest him, they throw him in holding, and they ask him if he found Sylvie, but he refused to answer. The other thing is, he clearly did something to his tempad, but he's not telling them what exactly it is. Hunter B15 is sure that he will talk, he just needs to sit and kind of marinate in holding for a while. In the meantime, Loki and Mobius take the tempad to OB to see if he has any idea what exactly this guy did to it. When they arrive, though, OB's a little bit busy. He's trying to fix the loom to handle all these new branches on the timeline. Because of that, OB doesn't really have time to look into the tempad, but luckily he did write a manual. So he hands them the book and says, everything you need to know about the tempad should be in here, and then he goes back to trying to fix the loom. While they're downstairs, Hunter B15 went to Casey to ask if they've gotten any luck on getting a hit regarding Renslayer's tempad. And at first, he's a little weird about it and says, what, this like secret mission? But she says, no, it's not a secret mission. Why would tracking her tempad be a secret after all she did? And Casey just kind of nods and says, yeah, right. Well, no, we haven't gotten any luck on it. We're having to search for it manually because Miss Minutes is gone. And with all the new branches, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But I did find something else. Renslayer erased the data from her tempad. But I was able to piece together who sent the last message. It was Miss Minutes. As soon as Hunter B15 hears this, she knows that Mobius and Loki also need to hear this information. So they both walk over to find Loki and Mobius trying to figure out what to do with the tempad, and they let them know what Casey found. Loki brings up how when he was in the past, he heard an old conversation on a recording with He Who Remains and Renslayer, and it did sound like she was partners with him. Casey tells everybody that he will continue to search for them, but it's going to take some time. He then notices Loki fiddling with the tempad, and Loki thinks that it blocks TVA tracking, but Casey picks it up and says that's not what it does. He's not quite sure what it does, but he knows it doesn't do that. And that's because Casey has read the TVA manual up and down. Casey's going to dive into it and find out exactly what it does do. And in the meantime, Loki and Mobius want to take a run at Hunter X5. Find out if maybe he's ready to talk. They need to know three things. Where's Docs? Where's Sylvie? And what did he do to that tempad? But when they go in, Hunter X5 isn't in the mood to talk. First of all, he doesn't go by Hunter X5 anymore. He goes by his stage name, Brad Wolf. And Brad Wolf has become quite the douchebag. The only thing that gets accomplished is...
So I have a little bit error with recording, so now let's continue the video.
But he off. He even manages to piss off Mobius, who usually is unflappable, when he brings up the life that Mobius left behind, doesn't seem to care about. It gets to the point where Loki has to pull Mobius out of that room. Loki's never seen Mobius like this before, so he takes him to cool down and grab a slice of pie, where Mobius does admit, yeah, okay, Brad got under my skin. During this pie session, Loki does ask Mobius, are you curious about what your life would have been like? And Mobius says no, because that's not my life. I actually like to thank the guy who kidnapped me and brought me here. The way he looks at it, the TVA is the only life he's ever known, and he likes it. The way Loki looks at it, if you don't know what your life could have been, you're never going to know how good you could have had it. The conversation then gets on track to X5/Brad, and they talk about how they're going to get through and get some answers. They've figured that he probably did find Sylvie, he just didn't turn her in. After that, he walked away to form a new life. They know that they need to get Brad to reveal where Sylvie is, so they decide to play good cop, bad cop. They both enter and wheel in this giant machine, and at first, Brad isn't concerned, until Loki locks Mobius out of the room. And this is all staged, but Brad doesn't know it. Using the machine, he's able to trap Brad in a box that gets smaller and smaller until finally Brad is looking like he's stuck in a trunk. And if the thing gets any smaller, Brad's going to die. So Brad, of course, gives up the information that Loki and Mobius wanted. Brad finally reveals that Sylvie has a new life. Mobius and Loki then take Brad and get ready to go see this new life that he's talking about. But as they head off to 1982 on the branch timeline, up in the control room, OB is still trying to figure out the loom, but there's a problem. The blast doors won't open. Hunter B-15 thought that Casey might be able to help, so they stop on by, only to find OB screaming, "We're all gonna die." That's because when he showed up to plug it in, a warning message popped up on the screen saying access denied, invalid temporal aura. He then realized that the blast doors weren't opening. So when Hunter B-15 and Casey show up, he's a little frazzled. But when Casey realizes that it's OB who wrote the manual, he gets starstruck. He actually asks for an autograph. They then, though, have to get the mission back on track, what to do before this whole thing goes up. OB tells them that the only person that can open the blast doors is the person who created it with their temporal aura, meaning the only person that can open it is he who remains. They also don't have Miss Minutes to help them override the lock, so they're stuck. OB can build the device, but if they don't find a way in, it's not going to matter. Basically, they have to convince a rogue AI to come back to work and help them circumvent the system. As they try to figure out a way to do that, Mobius, Loki, Brad, they've all arrived in a McDonald's parking lot in 1982 on the branch timeline, and Brad is really twitchy. He doesn't want to be there, it's become clear. But it doesn't matter. Mobius and Loki drag him inside, and sure enough, there's Sylvie, living a completely different life. When she sees Loki, she goes on her break, and the two go outside to talk. She asks him why he's there, and he says, there's been a problem. It's complicated, but I've been pulled through time, between the past and the present. But when I was in the future, I saw you. The TVA is in danger, and you were there, and I need to know why. Sylvie tells him that as much as she would love to see the TVA burn to the ground, she has no intention of going back there. She's happy with her current life. She has no plans on running. As for his vision, she doesn't know, she doesn't care. The way that he's talking, it sounds like the future's already been written, but they both know that can't be anymore because she made sure of it. He asks her to enchant him so that she can see what he saw, but she has no interest in doing it. It doesn't matter what Loki's saying, it's just not getting through to Sylvie. She doesn't care about his problems, and she especially doesn't care about anything that could happen with the TVA. He even tries to explain that if she really does like this life, then it's the TVA that will protect it. Because without the TVA, all of this, everything around her, is going to be gone. She tries to get up to go back to work, but Loki won't let her. He asks her, are you just going to give everybody free will and walk away? And she says, yeah, that's the way it works. He then asks her, what happens when his variants show up? What are you going to do then? And she just says, I'll kill him. But then they get interrupted by Mobius and Brad, who come outside because Brad's been hiding a little secret. He tells them, if we stay here, we're all going to die. Sylvie enchants him to see what he's talking about, and she realizes that Dox is planning on bombing every single branch of the timeline, killing everybody. They send Brad back to the TVA, and Mobius gets in touch with Hunter B15 saying they weren't looking for Sylvie. They're planning on pruning all the branches. Hunter B15 tells them she's already doing that. Luckily, Sylvie had an idea of where Dox and her people were. So Mobius, Loki, and Sylvie head there, and sure enough, you've got TVA agents going through doors and just pruning timelines, killing millions. They realize that they need to take Dox down as soon as possible before more people die. So they go into action. Loki and Sylvie run through all the TVA agents. Now, some of Dox's loyalists did escape, but Dox herself wasn't able to. She's arrested and taken back to the TVA. When Mobius, Loki, and yes, even Sylvie head back to the TVA, they see what destruction Dox and her people did. They watch in real time as these timelines get pruned. As they're all watching the screen, Casey gets a hit on Renslayer's tempad. And as the group congregates around the machine trying to figure out and locate exactly where Renslayer is, Loki walks up to Sylvie. Sylvie's disgusted that this is all they could do, and she tells Loki, the TVA is the problem. It's broken. It's rotten. I'm going home, if it's still there. And then she opens up a doorway and goes back to where she came. Luckily, that McDonald's is still there. And Sylvie soaks it all in by sitting on the bed of her truck and just looking up in the sky. Her manager, Jack, who's probably 17 years old, comes out to check on her. But she says she's fine, and that she'll be in tomorrow. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry. It'll be up in a day or two.
So thank you everyone for watching my video, and for the video that I watch, I will put the original video and in my video description, and don't forget to support them and also support my channel too. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.